You're now listening to the Open Africa podcast with Laolu, Nosa, and Furo. On this episode, we will be discussing the recent CBN cashless policy, Tingo, Inc., Mobile, Agri-tech, multiple airlines, and then also switching in Nigeria.
And nibs. And what's happening with cash.
Yes. So, without wasting much time, let's jump right into the first thing. Tingo.
Actually, first, let's provide context. Dozy, the founder of Tingo, is trying to buy
Sheffield
United. Right? Is it Sheffield United or Sheffield Wednesday?
Sheffield United.
He's trying to buy Sheffield United. For those that are unfamiliar, Sheffield United is a football club in England.
In the second division, like lower league.
So, lower league. But still, it's a football club. And I guess for the UK press, this is their first encounter with Nigerian billionaire Dozy.
Who wants to pay £90 million.
Who wants to pay £90 million to the club. And he said he offered to give them, I think, some initial money, like 9 million or something.
With his current net worth is £7 billion.
This is not confirmed by Forbes, by the way.
This is all Google.
Oh, sorry, I'm reading stuff from the internet.
No, I mean,
not confirming anything.
Is self-proposed. What they said is what they said point something. So the Athletic is how would you describe the Athletic? Shasha their website. And they did some digging of their own, and they found out Tingo Airlines doesn't really exist.
Did you know who the brand ambassador for Tingo Airlines was?
Desmond Elliott.
No, Reno Mokri.
Oh my god. Okay. That adds more.
Okay.
Anyway, Tingo Airlines itself didn't take place. What am I saying? Didn't take? Yes, it didn't take place. It didn't exist. Right? And so that is the UK. Once they do their fit and proper, I suspect that lots of people, thanks to the power of racism, they'll do some digging into his background.
Wow. You say thanks to the power of racism.
It is what it is.
But I will start from my own personal experience of Tingo, which is from Stanbic. I remember Stanbic having to issue a disclaimer. It's still on their website. That because Tingo put out a release saying that they'll be using Stanbic's payment gateway to power Tingo Pay. And Stanbic had to say no. And it's still official. If you Google it, Tingo and Stanbic, you'll find it. Where Stanbic had to say they are not really doing any business with that guy. There were conversations, but nothing ever went live. That's my first encounter. Now, I think then the other one was when they said they were raising 500 or something. Was it 500 million?
See, the thing is, I feel like Tingo does a good job of just having very well-placed articles at very interesting times.
And they're always sponsored. It's never like...
Yeah.
It's never like organic. Which brings to question is, for a business with 30 million users, which is Tingo Mobile, how come nobody has seen the users?
Nobody has seen the users. Nobody has seen the Tingo mobile device. Nobody has seen Tingo Airlines. Nobody has seen...
Dozy's message to Sheffield United fans. I love the city of Sheffield. I'm looking forward to coming and drink Guinness with you guys. I'm not shooting shells on purposes right here. I'm looking forward to coming and drink Guinness with you guys. It's not going to be an easy journey. I need your help, your support for us to do this together. I'm an individual you can count on. Don't see me as a Nigerian. Don't see me as an African. See me as a human being who is here to work with you. I believe we're not going to disappoint. Yeah, just for context, Dozy has a bigger net worth than Tejubole. For those of you who don't know who Tejubole is, that's Todd Bowley. How do you pronounce his name? Chelsea guy.
Yes. And
yeah.
In 2018,
according to
well-placed articles.
according to some
and
sources
in
on the
2018,
internet.
those
Please,
are-
we can neither confirm nor deny anything that we are saying on this.
Those
We are
are-
only recanting what we can see on the internet.
Wait, now around that Stanbic period, there was the issue of the EFCC.
Yeah, in 2017 or so.
Yeah, a dot check of about 31 million naira.
To an FCMB, if I recall.
And I mean, they've come out, I think a couple of years later, they put out a statement recanting, clearing the air on the issue.
Who put out a statement?
Tingo now.
Okay, just checking.
I'm actually trying to find.
But like, again, a lot of it was the statement they put out. They said that it was, Tingo said it was an internal control issue, and it was like maybe it was related to the supply of oil for like their device facility, Kiniko. But again, for someone that's making this impact, right? I'm not seeing it on road, and I feel like I'm on road enough to know if someone's out there doing something. And this is not me trying to say, oh, this is not. It's easy to assume that okay, maybe it's bubble. We have not left our bubble. That's why
Yeah.
we don't know.
No, but if an agri-tech has 10 million farmers on the platform, I feel like there should be a buzz of sorts. I don't know.
So, if you go back to the back of some earlier days of Tingo, you will find some interesting people on their board in Nigeria.
Jonathan was on their board.
Yes. Shegun Aganga was on their
If
board.
Jonathan was on their board,
According to the internet,
according to sources that we can see on the internet, then the Reno Omokri bit will make sense because Reno, according to the internet, is affiliated with a certain political party on which former President Jonathan ran. Again, we can neither confirm nor deny these statements. We're only stating what we can see on the internet. It's there for you to check.
So, I mean, there's even a thing where, again, a lot of these things, they're always sponsored posts. I mean, if you've ever worked in media, you know, like all this PR newswire type releases where they just push stuff out. You don't find it anywhere. There's a thing where he says they signed a partnership with Visa to issue cards for Tingo Mobile.
has anybody seen Tingo Mobile?
I've never seen the Tingo Mobile card. I've not seen it. Visa did not make any announcement on Tingo.
Oh, by the way, there's an article on the internet. Entrepreneur, and I apologize to him and everybody who goes by this name because I can't pronounce it correctly. Mmobuosi, to launch Dozy Mmobuosi Leadership Center in UK. This is in Guardian, Nigeria. It's not really loading.
No. See, just to give you some context. When Visa did their thing with Paga, when they to issue Paga cards, it was on TechCrunch. Like a lot of Visa strategic partnerships are a lot. They make a lot of noise themselves
because it is somebody's KPI in the office to make noise about things.
Nigeria is not a Visa market, so they do a lot that they can do to get a lot of buzz going around partnerships with fintechs issuing Visa cards in Nigeria, because it's through fintechs that they want to get to challenge MasterCard in this space.
Interesting.
all we're doing-
Sorry. Here is another thing on the internet that I just saw. This was published on the 9th of February 2023 on the sunnewsonline.com. Billionaire investor Dozy Mmobuosi six more investments for Africa's aviation sector. Blah 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 blah. Lots of gist. And then he gets to this point where he says, while Tingo Airlines Limited UK is in the process of being dissolved following the disruption to the global aviation sector, Mmobuosi and Omni Blue Aviation Limited, a fast-growing airline incorporated in Nigeria to provide regular blah 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 entered into a joint venture and mutual cooperation agreement in 2020.
Yeah. I think for me, my thing is just there are lots of businesses that are being mentioned with lots of valuations, but then I don't know anybody that's ever interacted with any single product from the entire Tingo group.
This is
just questions.
So for me, this
So,
is just for
to our listeners, if you've ever used a Tingo product, please let us know.
I just want
We want to review the product.
Football Association in England to conduct their fit and proper test, and please let us know the results, because from my own personal opinion, I mean, that we saw and that the company had to distance itself. It wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing that I found was when what's it called? There was a tweet about them buying, like the tweet about Sheffield, and the replies to that tweet, like everybody who was endorsing the move was, and I'm not saying that coincidence or correlation is
It was
causation,
very
but
patriotic.
yes, everybody that was saying, "Oh, this is patriotic, this is
No,
good for
patriotic. It's
Africa."
very jingo. That's what is jingoism. Jingoism.
I
Where
don't know
it's
what
just
that means.
unnecessarily we are the best.
Yes, but everybody who was responding that way is DM me for promotions. DM me for promotions. DM me for, and I'm not
It's
joking.
like
I'm
these
not the
guys-
only one
it's
who
like
saw it.
These guys now, what's their name? Those people that do.
I'm going to bleep that out because I think we are fought enough.
There are people of Timber and California.
And a couple of people replied to me. They were like, "Interesting discovery. Looks like an influencer farm. Looked at a few of the accounts and they are in air quotes influencers, because it was on CNN International, and there were replies like, a major win for Africa race if this comes true. If you look at the guy's profile, his bio, 6 feet, PR, ads. Then you see somebody else say, amazing news, this will be massive for Nigeria, especially in the sports aspect. Look at the bio, ads, DM me for promotions.
It's an
like
influencer
that.
farm.
It's an influencer farm.
There's no organic, what's it called?
Because all the organic replies, like quotes, are like, his name doesn't even sound Nigerian. I've never heard of this man before in my life. Like, do you get?
Anyway.
Because in Nigeria, billionaires will just appear. We hear the story. Do you get what I mean? You follow the journey somehow.
Yeah. I mean, I wish.
Or you
Sheffield
can
United,
ask somebody, and somebody tell you, oh yeah, here.
I wish Sheffield United all the best. I wish everybody involved all the best. That's all I can say. Anyway, on to brighter news.
Yes, please. Follow this way.
CBN cashless policy.
Is that
and
bright?
lack of cash.
Is that bright?
Is that bright?
For scarcity,
You have
lack
to-
of cash.
You have to put it in context. At least we know the cause and the source of cashless.
And we know the
Wow.
pain.
Wow.
So, essentially, CBN didn't print enough money.
They don't have enough paper to
Did
print.
they
don't
come
know.
out to say that this is not factual? That we should disregard? There was
They
What's
a...
that?
said you should disregard.
Wasn't there an article which did like a few days ago that said that
Eh, but
didn't
they
have
came
enough
out with
paper?
press release to say that people are misquoting them.
What? How we misquoting them that they didn't print? Look, the bottom line is CBN next. When CBN said we are changing cash, the point was to go and pay in cash. It wasn't to go and exchange your cash for new cash.
Yeah.
And that's
Hold
the
on,
problem
man.
that
Hold
we've
on.
seen.
This is a CBN press release. CBN debunks false claims about capacity of NSPMC PLC. Alleged threats to close on deposit money banks. Like, the attention of CBN has been drawn to a misleading report misquoting the governor, his name inserted, as attributing the current challenge in the distribution of newly redesigned Naira banknotes to a shortage of printing materials at the Nigerian Security Printing and Minting Company PLC. We wish to state categorically that at no time did the CBN governor disclose this during his presentation to the National Council of State at its meeting on Friday, February 10, 2023. For the records, what Mr. Emefiele told the meeting was that the NSPMC was working on printing all denominations of the Naira to meet the transaction needs of Nigerians. That is the press release, my dears.
Okay.
Central
I've
Bank of
heard.
Nigeria did not say they did not print
But
enough
how does
cash.
that affect the fact? How does that change the fact that people
Word
are
on the
queuing at
streets
branches?
is
and-
that it's the banks that just they like it when you harass their staff. They like it when there are 2,000 people in front of their branches.
But you know the thing is,
Fighting for
a lot
money.
of banks have had to shut down branches because
They
safety of
also,
their
if
employees.
banks also want to hoard money from you people, instead of keeping it at source in a regional distribution center, they will put it inside their branch and keep it there. Because these idiots that are running banks, clearly, and all of you have more sense than the bankers themselves.
I mean, what I'm struggling to.
That's sarcasm, by the
I'm
way.
struggling to see the incentive of a bank to even hold cash.
Yeah.
It makes absolutely no sense. Banks are being scapegoated.
Yeah, the whole situation is really messy. And the whole situation is being messy. It's really messy. And the thing is, for me, like, the people that are suffering are people that really can't make much noise, and which is why, I can't make noise online anyways, which is why they're on the streets, like, destroying property. And do you get what I mean? Because there's frustration. There's so much frustration. My help, for instance, she hasn't gone to church the last 2 Sundays. Me, I forgot. So now I need to go and find cash and give her so she can go to church on Sunday.
For
Because
offering
transportation, transportation is still accepting cash. Do you get what I mean? They haven't started accepting transfer. So me, is this morning, I saw her this morning. I was like, damn, I forgot to
See,
find cash
guys,
for her.
I just need you people to understand. Banks are not foolish. If there was any benefit to hoarding this cash, like if you enter their banking halls and the vaults, you will not see anything there. Like nobody who wants to hoard cash will go and keep it in Ijebu Ode branch.
because it's not safe. Like
It's not even safe.
Banks don't want to hold cash. Like,
Cash is expensive.
It's expensive. You don't want to hold
Holding
cash.
cash is expensive.
So holding is very stupid.
It doesn't make any sense. If they want to hoard cash for politicians, which is the accusation, right? The bank managers want to sort politicians. Why
Why don't you just give the politicians the money?
don't you just give the politicians?
Why
Or you
you-
think
why you
politicians don't have vaults in their houses?
Why are you holding it in your branch vault?
You think the mopo in front of those houses that you see, you think they are there for show? You go and try to rob their house.
Nah, I
first.
know what's it called. A bunch of banks that told staff not to come to work. I know Sterling.
Yeah.
told
My
them.
bank emailed me. I had debit card to go and collect. GT Bank emailed me like, please, ma, don't come to the branch. We'll let you know when you can come and collect your card.
Because at the end of the day, it is the poor, it is the most vulnerable people who feel this thing. Left to me, let me not lie to you guys, I've not really felt this cash problem.
Again, I've not used cash.
I recognize my privilege.
I've not used cash since shit.
See, the thing for me is
Stanbic.
that, again, the people that suffer, it's not me, it's not
Exactly.
in this room. I went to Mega Plaza, for instance, yesterday. Typically, when they help me carry my stuff from the shop to my car, I'll tip them 200, 500 here and there. There's nothing to give them anymore. Like the people that are suffering, so tips, like people that survive on that additional income of tips, they're going to struggle.
Wait, see, this.
But my own question
The reason I
is,
stopped carrying cash because I wanted to stop tipping. So I got a card holder. I just never stopped cash. This was like 2018. I was like, yeah.
guys,
I don't think I've carried
my own
cash
is-
since 2018.
I understand why people who are in a certain socioeconomic bracket in the country need cash, right? Because it is for their day-to-day reality.
Yeah, transport.
I have friends that I don't know why they are in queues.
Some people are just.
I don't know why you
I
in
call
a
it.
queue.
I call it scarcity mentality. They
Why?
just want to-
Why are you in a queue?
I feel like anybody that's like any person of the internet that is still holding for cash, I feel like they're a problem. They are reducing the share of cash that people that need the cash.
Yeah.
Why? You have your own car. You drive a car. You live in an apartment on the island. You work a 9 to 5. Like you work a corporate job or a startup or whatever. What are you doing with cash?
They'll tell you, oh, no, how to pay for fuel.
That's beautiful.
And then this
Like cash
idea
and
that
transfer.
everybody positioned like, oh, the banks are unreliable, the banks are failing. Guys, I've not had one failed transaction with my bank.
So now this brings
I have
us.
had many failed transactions.
I've not had
This brings
one.
us to the next thing. So
I feel like if I check now, that bank that is failing is one of those 3 banks.
now this brings us to the next thing.
Yes.
The
yes,
impact
yes, it is.
of this cashless thing, at least the agenda was to push people to digital, all right? Unfortunately, most people are not ready for the push to digital. I mean, they were ready, but they were not ready. Nibs was fine, contrary to popular belief.
Nibs was perfectly fine. Three big banks in Nigeria had issues, and it made it seem like the entire industry was struggling.
And a lot of their issues weren't even related to
needs or anything infrastructure wise. It's just staff.
Yeah.
It's staff problem for some people.
For some people, it's just there's nobody on ground anymore. And they've been having that issue for a long time. I don't know why it's today. For instance,
it's because of the pressure.
It was like
the
a perfect storm to be
the
honest.
Orange Bank was almost down for all of December.
It was perfect storm. I also had issues with Zenith as well.
Exactly. That bank has had issues for...
I sat inside a Pinkberry...
a good part of...
store for like 30 minutes waiting for transfer into
a good part of 2 years they've had issues.
It's crazy, guys. Like, I'm not saying that banks and electronic payments are 100% all of the time. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I feel like we've gotten to a point in this country that if you are getting anything less than 9 successful transactions out of 10, you should not continue with that bank.
This people are just Stockholm syndrome.
Truthfully, me, after I had my 1 or 2 experiences, I just transferred my money to multiple banks. I spread my risk.
Spread your risk. I mean, that's why banking is cheap in Nigeria.
I cannot be going out and they tell you, ma,
if you pay...
transaction declines.
If you pay for, what's it called? If you pay bank charges in a country like South Africa, where some banks will charge you maybe 30 Rand a month to operate an account with them, like where banking is a subscription service, if you go to those markets, it doesn't make any sense to have multiple accounts. But in Nigeria, you can have multiple accounts
if you paid what's it called subscription service for Nigerian banks, they won't have technical issues.
Never.
They'll have more money.
They'll have more money to pay salary.
Yeah, they'll have more money and there's more incentive to keep their operations running.
Especially for
so they'll have redundancies for redundancies because they are making more money and they can afford it.
No.
See, guys,
speaking of redundancies,
I'll woof they run belly. I just need you guys to know.
Speaking of redundancies, there was that tweet where that one guy blamed Nibs and like, why don't fintech people are going and they're building wallet apps every day
nobody wants to
build Nibs. I mean, there's half a truth. Yes, people are building wallet apps every day, and I think we've reached peak consumer fintech where if you are building a new wallet app this year, you're just throwing away money. There's nothing compelling you're bringing. But the alternative is not to build Nibs because there's a reason why Nibs is dominant. And I guess maybe this is a good segue for us to even explain how Nibs works. So in every transaction between person A and person B, there's a middleman that essentially routes that transaction. It can be a card, it can be a transfer, it can be USSD, it can be whatever. Any transaction that involves 2 parties, there's usually a middleman that routes that transaction.
A switch.
And that's a switch. Now, Nibs is the biggest primary switch for almost everybody because Nibs is, despite what some people might say, Nibs is a bit NIP, that's what it is. But Nibs NIP, whatever. NIP is Nigerian Instant Payment, is the product. Or Nibs is the company. Anyway, Nibs is CBN's child.
CBN and the banks.
Yeah,
CBN and the banks.
You are like the regulator.
So CBN and the banks came together to do Nibs.
Yeah.
And they like to lie to each other that, Nibs is an independent entity.
Yes.
But it's not. Because CBN can call Nibs and say, yank this person off. And Nibs will yank the person off. So there's that. So Nibs essentially is the biggest and primary switch for almost every financial institution in the country. Just for the sheer fact that of its relationship with CBN, there's already that what they call it. I think it's in network effects, that's the right thing, where it already has all the people.
Yeah.
And
the more people you have, the
more
better
valuable the network is.
Yeah.
And that's what Nibs is, and they've entrenched that thing. Now, to build your own switch today, first you need to get in the transfer from point A to B. You need to get the people that
You must get A,
facilitate
you must
A,
get B.
and you must get B, because you cannot transfer from A into A. You also have to have B in your network. And usually, if you go in, I mean, I'm going to say that if you come and meet me today and say, please, can
you connect to
you connect to my thing? The first thing I'm going to ask you is,
who are
else?
the people there?
Who else?
It's the same question we ask everybody who has come to meet
So
us.
maybe we need to talk a bit more about how those transactions work. So
Okay.
person A is transferring, for instance, to bank B.
So let's use
Person
real world examples,
Okay.
right? I'm an Access Bank customer. I want to transfer to GTB, right? Access and GTB are both settlement banks. Settlement bank meaning that they have money with the central bank that NIBS can use to facilitate this money movement. So what happens is that when I initiate a transaction from my Access Bank account, Access Bank debits me internally, right? And then they credit maybe a ledger or an account within their own bank. Then they make an API call, or think of it as they send a message to NIBS to say, oh, I've debited this customer so amount. He wants to pay this person in GTB this amount of money. Please help us facilitate it, right? NIBS will then take that message and then credit GTB with the amount to say, oh, this money is coming from Access Bank.
It's not even a,
It's not
it's not even a credit. They just simply tell GTB.
It's not really a credit. Yes, they just tell them
tell GTB
that there is this money coming.
Laolu wants to pay Furo.
Correct.
Please put the money inside Furo's account.
Yeah,
Correct.
and then most of the movement is just within internal ledgers in the
Yes.
banks.
Yeah. And then
The next day,
on the next day, NIBS will then go to those banks depending on the value, like the net positions, because this payment happens literally hundreds of thousands of times every day, right? So they'll go and look at all the money, and then the net positions, they will debit from those banks' positions at the CBN. For banks that are not, banks and fintechs that have connections to NIBS that are not settlement banks, those are the ones that hold cash collaterals, meaning that they keep a certain amount of money with settlement banks, so that when NIBS wants to settle, NIBS will debit. They have somewhere to pull
so
that money
essentially
from.
So the settlement banks are represented at clearing. So clearing is essentially the T+1 thing where the money is shared, and it's like NIBS does a net off of everything and says, okay, your net position is negative, your net position is positive. So we're getting this amount, we're paying you this amount, we're getting then they send you reports, like a settlement report every day, and say these are all the transactions that happened. You reconcile with what happened in your internal system. Now for fintechs and for microfinance banks
mostly,
because
some banks that are not settlement banks.
If you are a big bank and you're not a settlement bank,
What are you doing?
what are you doing in this business? But that's for another day. So now
You'll be surprised at the guys that are not settlement banks.
I said that I don't want to talk about these banks. If you are not a settlement bank, you're not a bank. So OFIs, which are other financial institutions, right? So that's where microfinance banks sit, finance houses, and
Your
MMOs, all of that. They are not directly represented at clearing.
Mobile money operator.
So what happens is those guys need to have partnerships with a settlement bank. Now, a long time ago, you could have a partnership with a settlement bank and your word is bond, until I think eTransact was involved in this, if I remember correctly. Or maybe not eTransact. But there was a small microfinance bank that tried to, when there was time for clearing, their position that they wanted to debit, they didn't have that money. So NIMS was like, nah, you can't let this happen, because who's going to hold this?
Who's going to carry that exposure?
Who's going to carry that? So there was lots of money. So what happened was, for any OFI that wants to participate in NIP, you have to have collateral with your settlement bank. Now, this collateral is just in case you don't have money, we'll just debit your collateral. And your collateral should be, I think 90%. I've forgotten the exact amount, but it should be a certain amount of your average transactions per day. Now, so a lot of OFIs means you have to park.
Cash.
Especially if you're a big player OFI means you're parking between 1 to 5 billion naira as just sitting there idle. For the bigger guys, it can go as high as even 10 billion.
Yeah, depending on the volume of transactions you do every day.
So, and also before in past that 10 billion before also used to determine the maximum you could do in a single transaction. Although certain people made NIBS force them to do 1M. I won't never NIBS. CBN told NIBS to set it to 1M. But that's for another story. But yeah, so that 10 billion is essentially just parked and you can't touch it. Maybe you might earn small interest on it based on your agreement with your bank. But your bank is just collecting free float. So that's how you participate in NIP. So it's not really... So when there's usually NIBS downtime, the reason is that all the banks are sending instructions to NIBS and NIBS cannot relay those instructions to the recipient.
That's bank. One of the reasons why a transfer might fail.
So they are debiting you internally, but it's just not getting
to where it's supposed
to be because NIBS is not available to communicate it.
But that's not what happened in this past couple of weeks.
So what happened in this past couple of weeks is a bunch of banks were unavailable.
Their network was down for the layman.
And when you put someone's account number and it brings out the account name, so that's called like name inquiry. So you do a name inquiry, and if NIBS notices that
they can't do name inquiry,
they just take you off. If multiple people keep trying to do transactions to that person, depending on how their system is structured, you have plenty failed requests to NIBS, and it will cause latency in your entire system and scatter you. So that's even another problem.
That's yet another problem.
Yet another problem for another day. But yeah, give or take. So now you've knowing how this relationship works and how it is. If you are a competing, switch, right? And they are competing switches. There are about 10, 15 of them that have licenses. And just for switching is not even just transfers. Switching is card payment.
It's also card payment.
So some people use their switching license
only for
cards. Flutterwave is using it for cards. MoneyPoint is using it for cards. Because for you to process a card transaction and essentially try and shaft NI and Co and Visa and Friends, you have to be a switch.
Yeah.
So a lot of MoneyPoint's strength on their agency network is because
they can do what we call direct routing. Exactly. On previous episodes, we will link the episode in this episode. We talked about like the entire payment flow. So instead of going through the entire payment flow with direct routing, you can go from the issuer to the acquirer straight
and skip all the middlemen
that make transactions expensive.
So, but for you to do that, you need to have a switching license.
And you must have a relationship with all those banks that you want to do direct routing to.
Which is also another work, but that's for another day. Now, for the guys that now have, so there's Zone that have their blockchain switch. There's InterSwitch, which is probably the second biggest switch, which is most people's failover.
Yeah.
There's Champ Switch,
Unified Payments as well.
Arca also has switching.
Thinkra has switching, but they are new as well.
So now for a lot of these, if you are going to have them as your failover, it means not only are you keeping collateral with NIBS for NIP,
you keep collateral
with InterSwitch. If you are doing
or whoever,
if your thing with NIP is 5 billion, it means you put 5 billion with an alternative provider. That is 10 billion. That's just sitting parked.
So there is no incentive for most people to build infrastructure unless there are specific use cases that they want to use it to achieve. The hardest bit, probably beyond even the technology requirements and having solid DevOps and all that good stuff, is getting people to participate. Why would I move my collateral from InterSwitch, who is my failover, to use you? Or why will I shank NIBS and come and use you if you build it, especially if you don't have clouds in this industry?
Because you don't have a lot. You don't have like a lot of it. I remember back in the days of, before NIP, where InterSwitch, And InterSwitch, the reason why they are the second biggest one was back in the day, InterSwitch used to build everybody's mobile app.
Yep.
And as part of the package they offered you was
Switching.
we'll do your switching. Now, for the guys that could not afford InterSwitch, they used to go to eTransact, which are the banks that you see are no settlement banks. And I remember early days of this work, trying to get listed on those banks as a destination for transfers. They will tell you that you need to integrate with eTransact first because it's eTransact that does their transfers. So, and I remember a lot of those decisions. I was like, this doesn't make sense. I'm not going to do that work. But yeah, so that's like the dynamic of switching, and because it's a network business and there's like entrenched players.
Yeah.
That already have most of the network. Like InterSwitch has probably most of the settlement banks. That use them as failover.
Yeah.
If you pass InterSwitch, there's eTransact that follows, which has some of the banks. Then you're now dragging with Charms and the rest to just get a fraction of.
There was one guy that, sorry to interrupt you. There was one guy who was trying to make a case about how it's not really difficult like that, and then he mentioned some player that they are rumored to be doing their own thing, and I smiled when I read that comment because I have internal information on like what's going on with that thing, and if those guys tell you that they are finding it easy, they are lying, because before guys will move traffic to you, they need to know who you are. Then after knowing who you are, they must trust your system, so they will probably not put. And at the end of the day, it then comes down to your technology, your financials, all of that, and getting other people involved, because until certain banks get, so even if I like you, if you don't have, for example, Fuga's banks, First Bank, UBA, GTB, Access, Zenith, which are the biggest banks in Nigeria, if you don't have them on your switch, it doesn't make any sense, because most transactions will go to those banks. So there's no incentive for me to switch that, which is why if you look at what a startup is supposed to do, or how a startup runs, or how a fintech works, it's not really great.
So now even the financial aspect of switching is going to be very difficult.
The license is expensive. You need like $4.4 million. That's the dollar equivalent. It's 2 billion or so.
For you to displace NIBS.
Or 5 billion.
You can't. NIBS is the cheapest that's on the market. NIBS is pure cost for NIBS is 5 naira.
For a transfer, yeah.
Without VAT. It's very difficult for you to be competitive with 5. Like if you're going less than 5 naira, you're going to be losing money. But not losing money, but your margins are going to be tiny.
Yeah. Which is why I was then saying that for a startup and how they operate, this is going to be a hard sell. Especially if your investors know what's up.
But if we're doing this in new normal, I'm sure you could have raised money to offer 1 naira transfers.
For how long? The market is wide though.
In the new normal, don't worry.
We burn that money very
You're
quickly.
You're just growing.
But oh well. So what happened that all of you were shouting that banks are failing is that 3 banks and Kuda.
Don't add us to that.
Kuda, let me tell you why I'm going to add Kuda. Because Kuda is the poster child for bank that is not like legacy bank. So if the established names in legacy banks are failing and then Kuda had a database issue, it just looked like the entire place had scattered.
Our transfer was working, it's just that you couldn't log in.
Or when you log in, the balance is not up to date. It was please.
Our transfer was working.
You guys are part of the reason why people were swearing that digital payments are failing. Meanwhile, people in smaller banks that their staff are not leaving every second.
I'm sorry, if you have 5,000 customers, your transfer should work every time.
Yes, and it did work this time around.
I mean, I'm happy for you guys with your 5,000 customers.
So my solution,
we're talking about skill here.
The solution, really, I think for customers in this market is to find a bank that my own acid test, because 100 is far, I use 10. If you do 10 transfers at any point within any period and you are getting less than 9 successful, you have no business.
But you see, the thing is, transfers don't really fail that much. Even the banks that you see have issues. Their issues are not with transfer. Their issues are infrastructure issues that affect other things. So it's not even like even using
So it's failed payments that people, because people were saying, like, how do you make marketplace? Like, how do you make market payments? How do you go to the market? How do you buy fish and tomatoes and all that good stuff? My answer is to transfer. But the people who use these banks came back to say that their transfers were failing in the markets.
It's just that.
Please stop going round and round and round. Transactions failed.
Furo is one of the people that are affected.
It affected me badly.
Because Furo has exposure to one of those banks that we are talking about. Big exposure like this. Yeah.
I have diversified my portfolio.
I know they tell person.
Oh,
Furo
anyway.
had big exposure.
Now I think maybe we can even extend this thing. So you know that the people that charge you more than 10 naira for transfers these days, the people are not directly connected.
Wait now, but is the charge for transfer is not graduated based on the amount?
There are people that charge you flat 25.
Those are the big boys.
No.
No, not the big boys.
Those are people that are using either they're using Flutterwave API or Paystack API to do their transfer. Who and wait now, and Paystack or Flutterwave are using NIP. So it's always funny when you see comments is like, oh, I use this app and their transfers always go blah 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 blah. I'm like, it's the same NIP everybody's using. It's just package.
Yeah.
So maybe Paystack will pay 5 naira to charge you 25.
That's what I'm saying now. Somebody subsidizing somewhere. Like,
Oh my days. But yeah, that's what happened with banks and payments. It's not like as if everybody was conspiring to make life difficult for you. It's what it is.
it is what it is. Sorry. I think we need to round up this episode because
Yes.
Yeah.
We need to edit it.
yes.
Nope, leaving it in there.
No.
But yeah, my solution to your problem is to go and bank with other banks. Put small money here, put small money there, and do transfers. Look, I gauged my tires with Foka, and I transferred 600 naira to
To be
Foka.
fair, even when I went to Baturi the other day, the guy that did my parking, I transferred to him. People are aligning, but the thing is that there's still a portion of people. So for instance, again, I'll use my help. I had to get one sticker to bank, let them sit there in the bank and teach her how to do USSD, whatever, because it's not me that'll deal with that stress. Because there's some people that just don't know how to use digital channels. She's not
but
Nigerian.
You see where
She
we are
struggles
going.
with English in the first place.
Where we are going in this country, you learn it or you will trek.
You know, it is a thing that Mitchell
It's hard.
Interswitch said maybe 2-3 years ago. If you want to be financially included, you know what is required.
I mean, that's fair. But I mean, it's hard still. It doesn't stop.
You know what is required.
And again, my own beef on the cash distance, like I will keep saying, it's not really the people who really need it. The guys doing downfall trips and all of that. It's the people like me that are in queues paying 1,000 naira to withdraw 5k. Is everything okay at home?
But I think there's actually such a good opportunity right now to actually, because I've been saying that, I feel like I say this every time. This is the perfect time to do an alternative, like a non-card.
Hey
payment
God, here we go.
Please, let's just end
Here we
this
go.
episode.
This is the right moment to do
Nosa
it.
has
This is
QR
where-
supremacy.
Not just QR
agenda.
supremacy. Bank transfers. People need to now start optimizing bank transfers for
USSD.
instant payments, like point of sale.
Yeah,
The
but-
user experience of
But you know that it does exist with the gateway POS terminals.
which one? Do you still have to bring out your phone and enter account number?
You still do like a regular transfer now.
That's not it. That's not it.
But the thing is, it's transfer, so you can go through any route you want,
Are
whether
you
USSD
people
or your bank
workshopping
app.
the idea?
The
of
user
the
experience for
episode?
transfers.
No, this is an existing product in
the
the
user
market.
experience for transfers at point of sale needs to be improved.
So if you have USSD string on lock, if you know your bank's USSD string, the long one, right? For example, a Stanbic that has that star 909 star 11 star this. if you transfer into that virtual account that is generated on that gateway POS, excuse me, it will print out the receipt like it will be a successful transaction.
No. There's what's it called? Patronize has that. Or you transfer to. So my thing is, it's not.
Traction.
It's not even the receiving end of it. The challenge is you having to bring out your phone, search for the bank, and type the account number. If you flag, even if you do USSD, you have to select a bank from the bank list.
Nosa, I feel like this particular problem is your problem.
The user you don't,
because it's an accepted user, it's an accepted behavior.
That's why people don't want to. That's how you innovate now. If you look at what you're comparing it to a card transaction. There's no cognitive load on a card transaction. You put your card, you enter your PIN, you are done. Card has even evolved to tap and go.
Yes.
Now we have an opportunity to replicate that same experience where a transfer should be mindless. And I think that's where a lot of fintech should be working. A lot of the payment fintechs should be working on making transfers a mindless experience, rather than we'll give you virtual account number that will print receipts. The problem is not even the printing receipt. The problem is that it's long. If you're in a long line or because that's why bus drivers are not going to do it.
Yeah. Even again, I would say Mega Plaza parking structure. There was queue.
There's queue
yesterday
because everybody is bringing out their phone to transfer.
Yeah.
But if you have a mindless tap, pay, go.
That bus one, if it's the bus one, I think given where we are in the evolution of payments in Nigeria, we need an infrastructural approach to transportation payments. Nothing in the market right now is a good fit for that thing. It's simply too long. It's too expensive. It takes too much time. Yeah. For how Danfos operate. So there's an infrastructure.
There's a lot of first principles thinking that I feel like startups should do. Like they shouldn't be building switches and whatnot, but they should.
But that transport one, somebody tried at some point now to do transport payments.
No, Kari is doing it, and Kari has a good lock on the BRTs and whatnot. They just don't have.
That's BRTs.
They just don't have one Danfo.
Danfo is the. That's the challenge.
Because if you are
dealing with all manner of principalities.
Furo is a design thinking consultant. Furo can help you workshop your session.
And Laolu as well.
Hit me up.
Laolu as well. Just putting it out there.
This is where you should actually put
certified design
People don't
thinking.
want to do design thinking.
Like this way
it takes time, effort, sweat.
It's not going to be an easy thing. And I think a lot of the solutions that we have now are the lazy way out, where you give them account number to transfer to, but it's not solving the problem that cash solves, because cash is instant, cash is fast.
We need a payment method that end to end can be concluded in 10 seconds. That's the design challenge is how might we enable end-to-end payments within 10 seconds.
The rails or whatever, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
The user experience needs to be fast.
I think at the end of the day, it's contactless that will win for Danfo. How you do that contactless is left to you, because the groundwork is already there. Furo, we are ending it now. Thank you very much.
Because people are getting carried away.